and then streamed on YouTube. So hello everyone from my side. I'm Sarah, I'm Ecosystem Manager at TechQuartier, and happy to welcome you to today's Icebreakers edition on artificial intelligence. So next to TechQuartier as a host, we have hessian.AI, we're joining forces with today, and Michael, who's a co-host and co-moderator today. So hi also to you, you're waving.
Yes, good morning.
Morning. So maybe for those of you who don't know TechQuartier, a few words about us. We're an innovation hub and ecosystem builder, which was founded in 2016 in Frankfurt. This is also where we have our office and our co-working space. So we're located right in the heart of Frankfurt, next to the Messe. As you can see on this slide, we have our community that's really at the core, at the center of TechQuartier, and it consists of more than 550 startups that are community members, and also 30 corporate and academic partners. And the idea is to really connect these various stakeholders through different programs and bring them together to foster innovation. So you can see a few names here on this slide for the corporate partners, but also names from startups and scale-ups that are part of our community. And to maybe give you an idea how these programs look, it's, for example, we have the Bundesbank Open Innovation Challenge. We have a program together with Rentenbank on AgTech and food tech. We have a lot of meetups and roundtables around focus topics such as ESG, embedded finance, and others. And we also have founder programs like the new Age Ventures program. I think today we probably have a few people also joining us that are participating in that program that is starting next week. So these the program is like focusing on data-driven ventures and focusing on supporting those, also with a co-founder matchmaking. And maybe we have a few talents here that are also interested in use cases of AI and just getting to know how to pitch and learn from you, the speakers here today. Just a closer look at our community. As I said, we have more than 550 community members. And if you look at the different sectors, so also historically grown, the fintech community is like the biggest share of TechQuartier community, but we also have others like green tech, prop tech, intro tech, basically everything that revolves around tech is welcome to the TechQuartier community. And although we have like a strong connection here in the region with more than 180 startups that are located in Hessen, we also have a very international community. That's also why today's session is in English. We have 30% of our startups that are from abroad, from the US, from Singapore, from India, from UK, the Netherlands, and many other countries. And I'd also like to just quickly notify you about some upcoming events. Tomorrow, if you're interested, we have an event together with a global partner, TACC. They're an accelerator from Taiwan about metaverse, so the technological backbone and also use cases on metaverse. You can join via Zoom tomorrow. And next week, we have our community networking event, Epler Time. So if you're part of the community already, or if you just want to get to know our community and mingle, feel free to register via our Eventbrite page. And also, if you're a startup looking for funding and you want to tackle your first fundraising round, we have the second round of our fundraising readiness program that is happening in fall and is still open for applications till the 30th of September. And last but not least, our ecosystem room. It's newly established, and if you are looking for a meeting space in Frankfurt, it's free for you to use once a month, and it's supported by the Economic Development Agency of Frankfurt. So this was kind of it, but now we're getting to the core of today's session, the icebreakers. So today's topic, of course, is artificial intelligence, and the concept is rather simple. We have 5 startups that are pitching for 5 minutes each. And after each pitch, we have a Q&A for around 5 minutes. So the idea is really to have you, the audience, ask questions, give feedback, comments, and just build meaningful connections through this 1-hour format. So I would like to encourage you also to write your questions in the chat if you want to during the presentations, or unmute yourself afterwards, raise your real hand or virtual hand, digital hand, to ask your questions in person. So we will start shortly with the presentation from Peter Hoy, CognitX, Parametry AI, TechLex, and Kern AI. But first, we have Michael from hessian.AI also introducing himself and their startup program. So, Michael, if you want to, I'll stop sharing my screen and then you can take over.
All right, a warm welcome from my side as well. And I'm here for AI Startup Rising, which is a part of hessian.AI. If you maybe have heard of hessian.AI or have not, hessian.AI is the Hessian Center for Artificial Intelligence, and it's funded by the state of Hessen. And they're part of 3 Hessen ministries which are in this project, and we are present at 13 of the 16 Hessian universities, while we have 22 professors, PIs as founding members, and we are about to build up 22 new AI professorships. And this is some more numbers. And what we are doing basically is that we have 4 blocks, which is one is research, because Hessian is really excellent in AI research. Then we have the startups. This is where I am from, AI Startup Rising. Then we have a big part, which is going to be infrastructure for AI, which is still under construction. And then also we want to transfer all that knowledge which comes from the research into society and business. So this is interesting if you are a startup or if you think about having ideas in AI, then you are always welcome to come to us. If you have an idea, then you can start with a masterclass. There's going to be a new batch of masterclasses from October on. Then we also have our AI Entrepreneurship Academy, which is basically talks on YouTube and a lot of knowledge about AI in different fields. We have a mentoring program running, and the open idea competition we had this year, and it's going to be back in next year. Also, the accelerator for later startups is going to be starting soon. And also from next year on, you can come to our AI prototyping funding and lots of cool stuff happening. And feel free to keep up to date. I told you already, there's an AI Academy about marketing, which is interesting for startups, but also if you're just interested about marketing, and it's made by the Decoder. The date is October 13th, and I do not have a link yet, but if you're interested in any of our programs, then feel free to join us at hessian.ai, and there you can come to our newsletter and see what's going to come there in the future. And now we're going to start with the Icebreaker sessions. Thanks from my side.
Thanks, Michael. Yes, so now I'd like to hand over to Roman, who's the first speaker for Vitahoy, and your startup is active in the cybersecurity field. So yeah, if you want to, Roman, just grab the mic and share your screen.
Awesome. All right, let's start. We start sharing and then we can get on our way. So hopefully you can see my slides. My name is Roman. I'm head of product at Vitahoy, and we are radically transforming our security operations. The current security operations and monitoring tools are not suitable for the ever-evolving threat landscape, and it will only get worse. You can see some of the examples that I added here on the right, but they represent a trend. The Federal Bureau of Cybersecurity in Germany, the BSI, reports in 2021 twice as much incidents as in the year beforehand. And based on different surveys that we went over, we're also seeing that experts in the field see that the complexity of the infrastructure grows. There is not a single person in a firm that knows exactly what's happening there. The concrete problems are twofold. Not enough experts, and that is despite the rising budget and the growth of the sector, but also the slow response time. That's again due to the complexity of the infrastructure in order to resolve an issue that is being monitored and detected. So what we do at Vitahoy is we taken upon ourselves this challenge of introducing automation and fully leveraging the existing data that the clients already have to improve the slow response time and optimize the orchestration operations in IT monitoring departments. What we do is we introduce real-time intelligence by turning the data that our clients already have into insightful knowledge that helps their experts instead of overwhelming them. But it also adds an instantaneous response system that is driven by self-learning AI that helps the expert actually actively resolve the issue instead of just saying, you've got a problem. How we do that? First of all, we break down the data silos. We bring all the data that we can collect at our client's side, be it through our client sensors that we developed, or using the existing data that the client already has. So here on the bottom left, you can see some of the examples of the theme systems that we work with. We also work with cloud solutions and also existing cybersecurity tools. So everything we integrate that together into our server. It's container-based, so we can deploy it on-site or in the cloud, doesn't matter. We process that data, normalize that, and start applying our detector on it. What we use with the detectors are different rule-based systems, like the tried and true, for example, DNS whitelist and blacklist. Also using different behavior analysis, using time-based anomaly detection. That is some of our, let's say, USP. We're also using NLP models to learn about different content, for example, out of email contents. And lastly, also different systems that are content aware, like for example, the Log4j regex system. Next, we turn your passive monitoring that you had before, Dev, into an active response system. Our server is able to communicate with your existing SISIC telemetry, your network hardware, and your monitoring and workflow systems in order to, first of all, notify those systems, and second of all, give your experts a recommendation on how they can resolve the existing incident with the click of a button. Just a simple example, in a case of a port scan, we can detect that and let your expert the ability to add a new rule through the API of your next-gen firewall out of the box without him even knowing how that API works. So let me just get everything together. So first of all, we're using data ingestion. We're connecting all the dots with the existing infrastructure and data that our clients have in order to better understand how a multi-layered cyber attack actually affects your assets. This is very especially relevant for cybersecurity. Next, we're using detectors to enhance reporting and help your experts instead of overwhelming them with more data, with more work to do. And of course, that's also without an unnecessary increase in total cost of ownership because they're still using the same systems. And lastly, we're giving you the response to get instantaneous resolution for those incidents instead of just showing you the symptoms and letting your experts trying to figure out the API for the old firewall configuration. That's pretty much about our solution in just a few minutes. We're funded by the Ministry of Education and Research here through the Startup Secure program, thus far with 1.3 million euros. We're affiliated with the CISPA Helmholtz Center for Cybersecurity in Saarbrücken, Germany, where we started this project last year as part of the research transfer. We're part of the community's tech transfer and cyber lab in Karlsruhe. We're super excited for the common future, where we finally start with 3 pilot customers, a regional bank, a manufacturer player, and an infrastructure provider. So again, just to sum up, BIRA enables continuous real-time observability, monitoring control of IT assets, while being fully compatible with existing security and monitoring solutions. Thank you so much, and I'm super excited to hear your questions.
Thank you, Roman. That was on point. 5 minutes, very good. I don't know, I'm looking around the digital space. If there are some questions already from your side, just raise your hand, unmute yourself. And
yeah, right, speaking.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you. Do you have a how much time do you need to collect data to start giving good insights in the beginning, the cold start? How do you manage the cold start?
Great question. It all depends on the existing data that we have and the use case that we work with the client. Currently, due to our background in network security, we're focusing specifically on metadata, on DNS, and on NetFlow sessions. We're also starting to integrate different scene data, for example, from your endpoint protection for your email. And that, of course, creates a lot of possible use cases for the client. What we do is we sit down, look at what we have. We run anomaly detection on top of it, just unsupervised, and we try to look for different things that are low-hanging fruit that might interest the client. Again, it's not just that we show something that is out of the blue. We're trying to connect it into a certain use case. And specifically for clients, they also have a prioritization. So if a client comes down and tells us, this is a service that has to be protected by all means, we focus on that. And that's why it's a very hard to answer question. From my experience, it takes, of course, a couple of days to get the integration going. We could just use a dump, but it's not that interesting for us because we have a live system. And afterwards, we work for a couple of weeks on using those, let's say, existing data to create a use case together with the client. After that, we're doing the test run to see that it actually doesn't affect any side effects. And I would say after that, we can go live.
Thanks.
There's a question in the chat about scalability of your solution.
That's also, of course, a very valid question. So first of all, the notion of how scalable our system specifically is, it's container-based. We have a whole cluster of Kubernetes scalable systems that are in the backend, of course, helping our system. But the integration of existing systems, like I mentioned in the slide about breaking down the silos, it's still in the works. What we do right now is we're working on integration of the systems that are very pronounced here in Germany specifically. So one of them is, for example, the whole Microsoft ecosystem of Defender and Sentinel. And that's something that we're already working on. In the future, we'll definitely have to, let's say, think twice before we integrate something that is less used. But I would say that after we cover at least the bigger players, we already have a big segment of the cybersecurity solutions. Just to let you know that most of them, for example, the cloud providers or the existing cybersecurity endpoint solution provide an API. So for us, it's just pulling of the data and getting that into our database, which is, of course, scalable to the fact that we're working with containers and everything is virtual.
Okay, then as we have one more minute. Okay, Hugo has a question. So then, Hugo, you just ask your question yourself. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Hi, thanks for your pitch. I was asking about the industry focus. If from your point of view, there's any industry out there that are more prone to cyber attacks where you feel that there would be a better market fit or for building your first use cases where it's more relevant for you?
It's also a very valid and right question. Specifically for cybersecurity, there's no one single sector that is uninteresting for us. I think that we're all aware that the state of the current cybersecurity is not the best. Just look at the last hack of the IHK, the German Kammer here in Germany. But we are currently focusing on the bigger and middle to bigger players in the financial sector. Specifically, banks already have that data, but they don't have everything connected. And they, of course, have a segmentation of the data that we have. Manufacturing, not on the internal part, not the OT part, not the stuff that happens inside of, for example, the factories, rather the outgoing. We're of the opinion that every attack starts from the outside. So we want to look at what gets into your infrastructure. And lastly is, of course, the critical infrastructure, but again, not the OT, but rather the IT. The shift from working at the office to home and being more mobile in the last couple of years created a very complex situation where I think that a lot of the attacks are coming through the IT and, of course, trying to leverage what you have for assets. So those three segments, the financial, the manufacturer, and the critical infrastructure.
Well, thank you, Roman, for that insightful talk. And next up, we have a startup, and they're going to show us how to talk to your data, actually. Welcome, Gent from Cognitix.
Thank you very much. Yeah, let me share my screen. Okay. Yeah. So, Cognitix, our vision is simplifying the interaction between people and business data by giving data a voice and making data analytics conversational. We are Gent and Griselda, the founders of Cognitix AI. We have both studied computer science at TU Darmstadt and have an AI background, machine learning, deep learning, and big data analytics. So yeah, what's the problem we're solving? Companies want to become data-driven, which means enabling every team in the organization to quickly and independently make data-driven decisions by distributing decision-making across the organization. But unfortunately, data analytics is still very centralized and has a relatively low adoption rate. It is either the domain of data teams, very technical people who love their technologies, but that don't speak your business or domain language, or even worse, don't understand your business requirements, so that you wait days or even weeks for a report to be compiled. Or on the other side, it's the domain of dashboards, which are static, are generic, are like not personalized, sometimes difficult to interpret without some basic analytics skills. And most important, that they don't show the story behind the data, and you can't ask questions to dashboards. So what we're doing at Cognitics, we're building the next generation augmented analytics. Cognitics is an AI advisor for data analytics to bridge the gap between people and business data. So literally get people and data speak the same language, like English or German. We believe natural language is the best interface that we as human beings have developed so far. And Cognitics gives data a voice by making insights self-explainable, actionable, and engaging. So Cognitics can get connected to a variety of data sources in the company: MySQL, SQL Server, Mongo, DB2. It's like a plug and play system with just a few clicks. Cognitics learns through the data without copying, storing, duplicating the data. And then you can just ask questions to Cognitics, like, what's my sales this month? Can you compare sales this month with last month? What's my projection for the next quarter? How much money should I invest on my current marketing campaign to achieve my current goal? So this is like a live running of Cognitics in a use case. Well, we are relatively young in our journey, but in this year we did quite a lot. We became partners with Cyberforum in Karlsruhe. We became partners with AWS, with Highest at TU Darmstadt, hessian.AI, very important. We are members of the Highway platform, and in August we released like the first version of Cognitics that learns through the data, gets connected with a bunch of data sources automatically, does data governance, who can access what with just a few clicks, and then you can like start right away talking to the data, asking questions, getting insights in an actionable way through natural language and through some visualization. So in a nutshell, this is Cognitics. I want to thank you very much for your time. And if you like our project, get in touch with us through our website or email. Thank you very much.
Thank you again. And yeah, are there any questions so far?
There seems to be something in the chat that only the questions come to the host directly. Not sure why, but at the moment there are none that came up here. There is one. How long is the deployment in a new business? Carlos is asking.
So I didn't understand quite right the question.
Maybe you can unmute yourself. Is that possible? And ask the question directly, Carlos?
Just to deploy a new business in your tool, how long is the time that take it?
Well, Cognitics comes with a console and the conversational interface. So it's as I mentioned, a plug and play system that with just a few clicks, you select the data source that you want to connect to, and the data flow automatically through the Cognitics systems, and Cognitics starts learning through the data. You can like make data governance, define users who can access what data through a system that we have called like topics, which are the contexts that Cognitics learns from. Each topic is basically a context that you want to know, you want to ask questions about. And yeah, it's roughly 10 to 15 minutes to get connected to a data source, maybe let the data flow, do data governance, and yeah, it's pretty easy. It's just plug and play and just a few clicks.
And how long the tool gives you the correct answers?
Well, Cognitics, it's a real-time system which gets always the most updated data. So if there is some change, let's say in your database, Cognitics will know immediately that there is some change in your database. So it takes always the latest updated information, updated data from your data sources. And then as it's always updated, it will give you always the most updated answer basically about your data. So it's pretty accurate in this sense. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
It seems the chat has been fixed, so now you can write your questions and everyone will see them, not only me. Is there another question to Gent? Yeah,
We have one from Ollie.
Do you have already a first pilot customer, he's asking?
We released Cognitics just in August. We are in negotiations with Deutsche Bahn and with the Frankfurt Airport to introduce Cognitics. We are partners with AWS. We have like a 2 years contract with them. So yeah, this is the current state of the product. We are right at the moment when we are searching for customers actually to try out the latest version. We had test users previously, but yeah, like a full big player customer, we are yet searching for it.
Okay, if there are no further questions, I think we can move on to the next pitch, which is by Red from Parametry AI. He usually sits at TechQuartier, but at the moment he's at a congress in Paris. And to sum it up in my words, what you do, right, your team is to apply blockchain and AI to avoid crashes and traffic jam in space. But I think you can probably explain it a lot better than I can. So Red, if you want to, we can see your screen now, your slides. Just go ahead.
We cannot hear you yet.
No, we can't hear you. But...
That's because I have to unmute before sharing the screen. It's amazing. Hello, everyone. So yes, I'm Red Bunga. I'm the CEO of Parametry.ai. It's been 12 months we're running this. We have 2 grants from the European Space Agency to develop what's called the Decentralized Autonomous Orbit. So we call that Space DAO for people who are familiar with blockchain technology. They would recognize the term, I guess. So what's happening in space today is that we have more and more assets that are coexisting in orbit or trying to coexist in orbit, but also we have more and more operations team on the ground trying to coexist as well. So this is a big scale-up problem. So we're having a lot of different companies filing requests to send more and more spacecraft. And here you see the numbers up to 2020 is just going up. That's the number of satellites in orbit. So you can imagine, like we spent like the last 40 or 60 years with barely 1,000 spacecraft in orbit, and now we're like reaching we're triple that already in 2020, and it's just going up. So what's happening is that we have many constellations doing many times the same thing, like observing the Earth or communicating, increasing communication in areas without internet. So they become partly used, and these assets could be spare resources for other things. So, and we see the shift, from missions where they send just 1, 2 satellites to missions where they send 60 to 100 to even more. So what we're doing, we're trying to build consensus for everybody to interact in orbit. So we are trying to build a collaborative data platform. This is made for people to meet each other, to understand where they are, and to see if they are, in collision problems. We're trying to record everyone's effort. So being a distributed ledger, we have a transparent attitude in the sense that we are recording information of everybody's action. That's very useful for us to create incentives. So if we record your efforts, we can say, okay, you did enough efforts this time. The others have to move. The problem is that in space, nobody wants to move, because the more you move, the more you use fuel, and the less fuel you have, the more probably you have to deorbit your satellite. This is the only rule that is for now managing space traffic. So we're trying to create those incentives thanks to more shared information to act for a safer space. And our main challenges, it's a massively collaborative project, meaning that it's also including geopolitical issues. So we are trying to do that the right way. So getting investors is also part of the equation of making that project successful, but we have to be careful which investor we take, and we are more looking for decentralized investment. This is a complex market fragmentation, so you have a lot of companies, and it's the civil capabilities are growing. So we have to identify who is stakeholder of the orbit, not just our DAO, but just the orbit, and that's our main challenges. So that's it. Our mission is really to enable this transparent space exploration and to reduce the risk of this market fragmentation by decentralizing. Our main focus is really to focus on the trust that everybody has on the network of stakeholders. And you can find all the information because we're sharing everything. We're making open source assets, and we have this wiki page where we actually share our research as we go. So please reach out, and every information like technology or any info that you would share, would be super useful. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Red. There's already a question in the chat.
All right.
When do you go live?
Oh, we have in December, we have to go live with a prototype. So we hope to go live a bit before, doing some tests beginning of November. At the moment, we're starting to write the smart contracts. We already have digital identities, representation of assets, what people call NFTs easily, but the 1155 kind of NFT, and yeah, so it's looking like 1st of November we will be able to make some first tests.
Cool. Okay, maybe if you stop sharing your screen right now, then we can see your picture again.
Yes, I'll try.
Okay. And
I'm trying.
I also have a question.
Stop me sharing?
Can I stop you sharing?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Well, maybe you can.
No, I can't anymore. Okay.
But Red, I have a question.
Yes.
Because you said it's very difficult to identify all the stakeholders in orbit. So how do you actually do that? Because it might be interesting also for other markets. Do you go to fairs, congresses, networks, through your networks? How do you really get in touch with everyone that you need to talk to make this happen?
Exactly. So that's what I'm doing today. So I'm at the International Astronautical Congress, where you have different companies that are making very various things, like collaborating for the International Space Station. So they're also making different tools and data collection software and hardware to collect what's happening in orbit, so radars, etc. Also, they are trying to see how safe it is to trace a path to the moon and land there. And it's a huge exhibition where you have a lot of stakeholders that are here, and that's of course a big acceleration in terms of listing and interacting with them. Yeah, that's we also have ESA with us, so they are really very helpful and supportive, trying to see how and where this could go somehow. Yeah.
Brad, I have a question about the AI specifically. Can you go into maybe how AI technology is used concretely for your collaborative platform?
Yeah. So so the platform itself is not AI, but it's made to collect, to use the AI algorithms of everybody to cross-verify themselves. So the thing is that as of today, you could have a company telling you that there's a collision between two spacecraft, but you have to check that this is really valid and you can trust that information. So what we're doing is that we're taking the AI solution of one stakeholder, the AI solution of another stakeholder, and we're just comparing their results across, the analysis of the same information. So it's more like an AI challenging network, I would say. They challenge each other.
Thanks.
Okay. Are there any other questions to Reg?
Well, if nobody, I mean, I have another one in case, but you mentioned incentives for the people to maybe change course or something. Can you expand on what those incentives could be? Like,
yeah, that's a good question. We are actually making the equations of this. So when you're a satellite operator, what you want to do is that you have your service continuity, which is satisfied. The thing is that you don't want to move, because every time you would move your satellite, you would have to pause the service eventually. So we're trying to create incentives for people to move quick in order to pause their service just short times. Also, we're trying to create incentives for people to move in order not to move in the future, or those kind of things, and to collect some kind of rewards so that they don't have to move in the future. So it's still a hard problem in the sense there are many things involved, and so in terms of geopolitics. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yes, if there are no more further questions, then I would say thank you and good luck.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Next up, we have an interesting talk about how to bring AI into legal tech. Welcome, Sarah and Kevin from TechLex.
Good morning, everybody. Unfortunately, I have a bad internet connection, so I'll leave my camera switched off. I really hope I can turn it back on for the Q&A session. Let me share my screen. Perfect. Let's start off. So we're TechLex, a legal tech startup based in Marburg. As demonstrated by today's event, we're in a time of digital transformation that is driven by the demand and rising acceptance of the people. And TechLex want to introduce today's technical possibilities to the legal market. To start off, we will improve the legal research. Yes. To show you the state of art of legal research, we're going to show you a everyday search query, but with using a technical method of legal research tools today. So imagine showering and giving yourself a well-earned head massage while you're shampooing and enjoying the shower. You look at your hands and they're not full of white foam, they're full of hair. You then get shaky and scared. And what do we do in the 21st century? We Google. You hope for an answer that will calm you down, but imagine these top results appear. I think these are not the results that you expected. Yes. And now I'm going to tell you why this search failed. And please remember, this is how legal research works nowadays. And this is the technical state of art. Sorry. The technical method that is used today in a state of art is the keyword research. To summarize, the state of art in legal research is that no context is understood and the search is built up on alphabetic structures.
I will now go a little bit more into detail. All legal people working in law, for example, judges or lawyers, or also students and researchers, have to deal with legal research. And around 40% of that legal research consists of using search engines and databases, as described by Vera, to find documents. And this is an immense data volume. For example, at least you have all verdicts of the last 30, 40 years or something, and then you just have a keyword search. So most of the time you get lots, you type in your keywords that you want to search for, and you get lots of results that make no sense to you. So this is a really outdated technology, and it leads to a lot of stress and tedious. So all of the people complain that this research is tedious, and big law firms hire entire positions just to do this research. And our solution for this is pretty simple. Actually, we just want to build, use modern technologies to build such a database like Google, for example, is also doing. Meaning we will, first of all, obviously collect all of the data. We will start using the publicly available verdicts. And so we have a lot of text data. So it makes sense to use modern natural language processing methods to pre-process the data, vectorize it, and maybe already classify it using some mathematical methods. And on top of that, we want to build a deep neural network or deep neural networks to find patterns in that research that may be beyond what you can find for patterns in natural language processing alone. And yeah, this is also not a new method. It's probably done by most modern search engines, but it's not yet done in legal research in Germany. So this is what we want to build.
Yes, and besides the technological development implanted in the research tool, we have additional features that contribute to a more efficient way of working. We wanted to elaborate in detail about 3 of them, but we're running a little bit out of time, so I'll only get into one feature. Let me make you known to the feature similar case search. In legal context, credibility rises by the number of sources which you mention as references with the same opinion that you have. Through the thinking database and the ability to understand legal language, TechLex can point out other similar sources or even identical ones that are argued in the same way, that help you to argument on your own opinion.
Okay. Yeah, so I will go quickly into the market volume. In the bubble on the right-hand side, you see that there's about 500,000 lawyers. About half of them are civil lawyers, and 5% of that civil lawyers is our target group. If we achieve the target group by a subscription model of 30 euros, we would already have an annual turnover of over 3 million. Yeah, this is our founders team. Vera and me are talking right now here. We also have one more law student, Leonie, joining us, and we also have 3 more developers already on our team. Yeah, thank you for listening, and please ask questions if you have any.
Well, thanks a lot. If there aren't any questions, I think I have a question. Are you going to start in Germany, or are you planning to go into a worldwide market already?
We're starting off in Germany because every law system is really different. Yes. So we're going to start off in Germany and maybe also expand to other countries. We already are talking to another startup that has the same idea and tries to convince the Swiss market. Yes, but we're still talking and only focusing on the German market right now.
Thanks. There was a question from Johannes who says, super interesting, and he asked a technical question. Just as you mentioned that you aim to vectorize the text, most likely for search and classification, we used a couple of awesome open source frameworks. happy to share any experience with that anytime. Well, it's not really a question, but
I think it's more of a comment, and Johannes is speaking next, right? So maybe it makes sense to connect. Yeah.
Yeah, would be welcome to share what you use. But yeah, we also have already found some open source framework to do that. Maybe we found the same, but we can talk afterwards.
Anyone else who has some feedback, valuable connections, people they should talk to, or just a question, feel free to raise your hand or post a question in the chat. I think Vera and Kevin, you will also share your contact details in the chat. That would be great, so that people can reach out to you later in a one-on-one. Seems like there are no more questions in the chat. Michael, Hugo, your people questions. Do you have any?
Then I'm going to have another question if no one else asks. How long do you think will it take until AI actually will start to formulate laws? Do you think that's a possibility in the future?
Yes,
yeah.
When you go.
I wanted to ask him to repeat the question because I wasn't understanding it.
Yes. Do you think there's a possibility that AI is actually going to formulate laws, or that?
I would think that this is very far into the future. I think we're far away from that.
Yes, I wrote my first paper about legal tech 2 years ago, and that was my vision. And when I talked to a back-end developer like Kevin, he told me what we can do today and maybe in 2 years. And the vision that I had is far away, yes, to today's state of art in technical context.
Marcel just commented on that, but a direct message to me, so I'm just reading it out. It is possible with GPT-3 and the good labeled data. We are using it at PwC, Freshfields, and more. So maybe you want to connect with Marcel afterwards. And there's another question about competitors. Do you have any competitors?
For the thinking legal database, no. Not at the time, yes. And for the additional features, yes. But you also need to see it in summary. You pay 30 euros for all these additional features that are for free. And there are other competitors that are even startups or rising companies that only have one of these features, and you pay for one of it. So you have a total package. And that is the case because we already have all these features implanted because we're working as a group, as Kevin told you. And yes.
Okay, great. So then, if you have any other questions, just reach out to Vera and Kevin directly, as we're now moving on to the last speaker, which is Johannes from Kern.AI. And you're also a member at TQ, and you're providing an open source data labeling solution. It would be great if you could just share your screen. And yeah, the stage is yours.
Cool, awesome. First of all, thanks so much for having me. It's the second time I'm on Icebreakers, and the first time was like amazing, super cool. I gained lots of very interesting connections from that. And so I'm super happy to be here once again. Yeah, let me share my screen. I can start. You can see everything, right? Awesome, cool. Yes, so I'm Johannes from Kern.AI. I'm one of the co-founders. We are at the moment a team of 9 engineers, so lots of developers. And what we do is basically we build developer tooling exactly for scaling and orchestrating natural language training data, right? So just for cases that we've just discussed, and we have a really, really cool open source edge on all of this. Just to have everyone on the same page, most likely you've seen that before, but to make sure, if you talk about natural language and you want to train some models, word texts are always never like your training data. So you have to do some processing, you have to modify them. And large parts of this is basically labeling, right? So we have like in claims processing and insurance companies, you have like mails, customers describing the issues they have. And now if you want to process this using an AI, you need labeled data for this. And what we've seen at Kern is basically that the scientists that build such models typically have a misery. And this is that they have little to no control over the training data that they have for their model fine-tuning. So on a very high level perspective, if you look into the different steps in the value chain when you want to create AI models, it's typically that you have tasks like text collection, then optimizing that set, text data into labeled data. Then you have steps like training, serving, monitoring, and so on. And we have really, really cool open source frameworks for building such models and having like off-the-shelf pre-trained large language models. But what scientists and engineers typically have little to no influence on is like the training data itself. And this is typically executed by the business unit. So that the scientists at the end of the day receive a spreadsheet with the data and that's it. And this is problematic because it's a bottleneck, right? It's oftentimes difficult to scale this labeling. It's typically a black box, so not maintainable, and it just slows down the iteration. And so the outcome of the scientist's work is very much influenced by this training data. And this is where we jump into and where we enter the game, is that we specifically optimize this. We make a much better collaboration between teams like scientists and business units. We help scientists to find exactly those headache-causing data sets, and our application is fully programmable so that you can basically achieve speedups by, I'm not lying, that's actual data 100%, 100x, right? So that's basically what our claim is and what we're doing. And our software basically helps you as the scientist first to really scale that kind of data using so-called heuristics, which can be anything. It can be programmable labeling functions, language models, it can be crowd worker labeling, to label on large scale your data at first, right? So that you can automate large parts of your data labeling. And then we also help you find exactly those difficult subsets where you have low data quality, low confidence. So you can just select this slice and send it back to your business units, asking them if they can look into this, right? So we help you do this on large scale with a very high quality. And the core benefits is rather simple. You can start very easily, right? We have seen scientists use this to build actual models from zero training data to more than hundreds of thousands of training data in one afternoon. That's it. That's how long it takes. It's super cool to help scientists and business units collaborate, because the scientists can now really tell exactly where they need help, where they have low quality data. And ultimately, if you have more and better training data, this typically leads to better results in your AI. So we go from instability and unreliability to reliable predictions. And the best part of this is it's open source, right? So you can just, what you see in the lower section, it takes 2 commands on your command line if you have Python installed and you have Refinery up and running. And that is why it's loved by practitioners all over the world. We have a really, really cool community on GitHub, and you can even run it on a cloud, but also on premises. So that's awesome. And the use cases basically are completely in the natural language processing segment. You could use this for like mail analysis, like insurance companies, it's typically claims processing. You can use it for information retrieval, fine-tuning, like if you want to build your search engines, or you can use it for things like sentiment analysis or social listening. But it's a dev tool, and so you can ultimately use it for anything in that segment. And that's it from my side, for my pitch. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy this. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them now or anytime afterwards. You have my contact data.
Thank you, Johannes. Maybe you can also share your contact data in the chat with everyone. That would be great. And yeah, are there any questions for Johannes?
I'd have a question. Well, it's an interesting solution. My question is, how do you monetize your solution, basically?
Yeah, that's the most awesome part about everything, because the open source part is not colliding with that. Basically, we have a whole community around the open source solution, and they're using it for projects that, like, we have one scientist that just wrote it that he labeled more than 200,000 radiology exports all by himself. But what we see in like more enterprisey projects, which is where we are commercializing, is that it's more about continuously working on the data. It's not about building something for an afternoon, but they have like core processes and they need to fine tune so that they optimize like the last digits of the accuracy. And this is where really our multi-user setting comes into play, where you can, as a data scientist, program anything. And you can even feedback the model predictions, by the way, from your production model. And then you can find where are like the subsets that really give me headaches during training. And I push this back to like a crowd labeling service or like to the business units. And this multi-user setting is then what we take money for. But that's the cool part, it's not colliding.
I think that was also Carlos's question, which is in the chat. So the business model, yeah, Carlos, if you have a follow-up question, just unmute yourself. If it has been answered, that's great.
It's the same question.
Yeah.
That Gent did. Thank you.
I've had a follow-up question. Well, normally AI models are as good as the training data are. And my question is, like, do you have any kind of checkup upon the quality of labeled data? And another appendix here, do you have like any solution for proprietary data that need to be labeled, for instance, that a company doesn't want to, to publish or to share with other peers in the market?
Absolutely. I'm answering the second question first and jumping into the first one. So this was initially designed for a company working on super confident patient data, because they had this scenario of having like, I think 10 million documents available, and they were training on 10,000 because they could not scale the labeling in-house. But they had to because they could not outsource it, right? So this was what we very initially designed it for, and we have it as an on-premise solution. So you can definitely use it for in-house labeling. And the other question, like, absolutely 100%. And we have like a full monitoring about different perspectives of the quality, like the typical ones, like confusion matrices and everything, like label distribution grouped by the different label categories, but also like the confidence of the data. So we see that this typically helps you so much to estimate like how good is the quality actually, and when do I need to dig deeper into. So that's what we 100% look into.
Thank you.
I had a question as well. Hi, Johannes. I think it's cool you're coming back to pitch, because last time around you were still called One Task, and I think you were focused on building that enterprise solution mainly. And now it seems like you added this whole open source layer, which I find amazing. My question pertains to the community angle. So I'm community manager at TQ, but I want to know maybe how's your experience going with leveraging GitHub, Product Hunt, these online communities to kind of feed your product development process, and basically what's the community angle from your business model? And just curious to hear you expand on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we made two major learnings. And the first one is basically our tool is 100% focused on developers, and we typically address developers all the time. And developers don't like to be sold anything. They like to learn things, right? So that's what we're doing. We are making lots of content about useful stuff that is maybe even not addressing our application. It's just about showing cool stuff, and we share like YouTube stuff about this. We talk about new open source frameworks and everything. And the community really appreciates this, and we just had them. And this, I think, is helping a lot to get like an engaged community. And the second thing is we had like a massive launch. Like the first week that we open sourced this, we had more than 150,000 views on our GitHub repo. And the success of this was because we looked into what kind of communities are there already. Like, not how can we create our own little one, but what existing communities are there and how can we engage there so people get excited about this. And to give you one example, one of the major platforms that we engage with is DevTO. It's like typical dev platform, and we just gain so many visitors just from publishing interesting content there, like not worrying about how we are selling it to the devs, but just about how can we create cool content that they appreciate and like. And this just helps us so much.
Yeah, very cool.
Thank you, Johannes. Thank you for also sharing these insights. I think we're a little bit over time, but it was a great session. So before you leave, Hugo is gonna start a short feedback poll. It would be great if you could just quickly leave your feedback. And I would like to say thank you to Michael from hessian.AI, and also thank you to all the speakers. It was a great and interesting session, and I hope there will be a lot of connections. And yeah, feel free to reach out to each other via LinkedIn or come to some of our events that are happening virtual tomorrow, like I said, or next week at TechQuartier. And I hope to see some of you there. Hugo, is the feedback questionnaire up already?
Yes.
Cool, thank you. So then, goodbye and have a great Thursday, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.